Gentlemen, let's be honest. When it comes to intimacy, every man wants to know the secret, the one move, the one technique, the one hidden key that makes a woman melt in his hands and remember him long after the night ends. But what if I told you that it's not about what you do, it's about what you understand? That the Phi 1 sex technique women truly beg for isn't found in magazines or videos. It's found in how deeply you can connect with her body, her mind, and her emotions at the same time. Too many men rush the experience, focusing on performance pressure and proving themselves when what she's really craving is rhythm, awareness, and emotional presence. Because when a woman feels safe, desired, and understood, her body doesn't just respond, it blooms. Her desire becomes something powerful, organic, and unforgettable. You can't fake that energy and you can't rush it. You have to learn it, feel it, and live it. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what that means, the 5 things that separate average lovers from unforgettable ones. This isn't about tricks, it's about truth. It's about mastering the kind of connection that makes her eyes close when you touch her and her heart race, when you say her name. Because when you know how to do it right, when you know how she truly wants it, you don't just please her body, you awaken her soul. So stay with me until the very end, because what you'll learn here can change the way you think about intimacy forever. This is not just about better sex. It's about deeper connection, stronger chemistry, and the kind of pleasure that leaves both of you breathless. Let's begin. When it comes to truly satisfying a woman, the greatest misconception most men have is thinking it all starts in the bedroom. The truth is, her body doesn't respond to touch until her mind feels seen, safe, and desired. A woman's arousal begins in the brain long before your hands, lips, or body ever come into play. The hormones that spark her desire, like dopamine and oxytocin, are directly linked to her emotions and mental stimulation. That means your words, your presence, and your energy can either unlock her deepest passion or shut it down completely. When a woman feels emotionally connected, her brain signals her body to relax, her breathing slows, and her heart rate begins to match the rhythm of yours. This physiological response is what allows her to open up both physically and emotionally. You could be doing everything technically right, but if her mind isn't engaged, if she doesn't feel that genuine desire radiating from you, it won't reach her on the level she needs. So, how do you start in her mind? It begins with attention, not just looking at her, but seeing her. The way you look at her when she speaks, the tone you use when you say her name, the small gestures that tell her she's desired without needing to prove it. A woman craves emotional security and curiosity at the same time. She wants to feel wanted, but not controlled. When she senses your desire is rooted in appreciation and not in demand, it activates her trust, and trust is what opens the door to real arousal. Emotional safety doesn't mean you lose dominance or attraction. It means she can surrender into pleasure without resistance because she feels protected in your presence. The mind body connection is especially powerful in women because her psychological state directly impacts her hormonal and physical response. Stress, distraction, or lack of emotional intimacy can suppress her natural arousal response, even if she loves you or feels attracted. That's why the best lovers aren't those who focus only on physical skills, but those who know how to build emotional anticipation, a kind of foreplay that starts with conversation, eye contact, or even silence that speaks desire. A woman needs to feel that you're tuned into her, not rushing her, not treating her body like a sequence of steps to reach pleasure, but like a landscape you want to explore with patience and reverence. The moment she feels emotionally engaged, her entire physiology begins to shift. Blood flow increases to her most sensitive areas, her muscles relax, and her body prepares for connection. But this doesn't happen through pressure or performance, it happens through presence. The brain, when triggered by emotional intimacy, releases oxytocin, which heightens sensitivity and lowers inhibition. This is why women often say, It's not what he did, it's how he made me feel. That's not a poetic statement, it's biology. The real technique she begs for begins in the mind. Because when you reach her there, her body will follow naturally, effortlessly, and completely. One of the most misunderstood aspects of female pleasure is rhythm. Many men focus on speed, thinking intensity equals satisfaction, but what truly ignites a woman's body is a deep sense of rhythm, patience, and consistency. Her body isn't a switch you flip, it's more like a melody you learn to play slowly, intuitively, and with attention. The truth is, a woman's arousal is not instant. It takes time for blood flow to reach her most sensitive areas, for nerves to awaken, and for her mind to relax into her body. This is why rushing, forcing, or changing tempo too fast often disconnects her from the experience. The fighty one sex technique she truly begs for is not wild motion, it's understanding her rhythm. Every woman's body speaks a different language, and that language changes depending on her mood, energy, and emotional state. What she loves one day might not feel the same another because her arousal is tied to her environment and emotions. This is why rhythm is not just physical, it's emotional attunement. When you pay attention to her breath, her sound, the way her body subtly moves toward or away from you, you begin to tune into her frequency. Her pleasure is guided by consistency, a slow, steady build that allows her nervous system to fully process each sensation. When you maintain rhythm and adjust your pressure in harmony with her cues, her body feels safe enough to let go. It's not about performing a move, it's about listening through touch. Patience is what transforms good intimacy into unforgettable intimacy. Most men stop too soon, thinking they've reached the peak of her pleasure, but women often experience multiple waves of sensitivity before climax. If you slow down just when she begins to melt, her desire deepens rather than fades. This patience signals her body that it can fully surrender, that she doesn't need to perform or rush to please you. It's in those moments of deep stillness and consistent rhythm that her pleasure amplifies. Physiologically, the slower build increases nitric oxide and blood flow, heightening sensitivity and increasing the potential for stronger, longer lasting orgasms. When the body has time to fully awaken, every nerve becomes more receptive and every touch feels magnified. Pressure, too, plays a vital role. Too light, and she may feel teased but unsatisfied. Too hard, and her body tenses instead of opening. The right pressure is the one that invites her body to move toward you, not away from you. The secret is to adjust based on her breathing and sounds. Shallow breaths mean she's overstimulated. Deeper, slower breaths mean she's absorbing every sensation. A woman's pleasure thrives in the space between stimulation and relaxation, and rhythm is the bridge that keeps both alive. In truth, the most powerful technique isn't one you learn from a video or article. It's the skill of being fully present with her body, feeling, adjusting, and moving in sync with her energy. When rhythm, pressure, and patience merge, her body doesn't just respond, it remembers. And that memory is what keeps her wanting more long after the moment has passed. Communication is the most underestimated form of intimacy. Many people think that talking during sex breaks the mood, but in truth, the right kind of communication deepens it beyond measure. A woman doesn't just want a partner who touches her body, she wants one who listens to it. And listening isn't always with your ears, it's with your attention, your intuition, and your willingness to adapt. Communication is what transforms sex from a performance into connection. It's what tells her she's safe, desired, and understood in real time. When you create an environment where she feels free to express herself without fear of judgment or rejection, you unlock a part of her that no technique alone can ever reach. A woman's arousal is as psychological as it is physical. Her mind constantly scans for signs of safety, trust, and mutual respect. When you ask her what feels good, when you whisper something that makes her feel beautiful, when you check in softly, it tells her you care about her experience, not just your own. That awareness triggers the release of oxytocin and serotonin, the hormones that make her feel connected and loved. And the more emotionally secure she feels, the more her body relaxes, which enhances her pleasure naturally. The irony is that by asking, by listening, by paying attention, you make her body more responsive than any single technique could achieve on its own. Communication isn't limited to words. It's in your tone, your breath, your eye contact, and the pauses between movements. It's how you adjust when she exhales deeper, how you notice when she grips tighter, or when her rhythm shifts. Those are her body's ways of speaking to you. And if you're attuned, you'll understand what she's asking for without a word. This silent language creates trust and synchronization. Her body learns that you're paying attention, not rushing, not assuming, and that awareness turns her mind off and her body on. When she doesn't need to guide or correct you, she can fully surrender to the moment. Many men hesitate to ask what feels good because they fear it will make them seem inexperienced. But in reality, it makes them exceptional. Confidence is not pretending to know everything, it's being secure enough to learn her body as if it's the first time, every time. Women remember men who listen more than men who try to impress. That sense of connection, that feeling of being truly heard and seen stays with her long after the moment is over. It becomes emotional residue, something that lingers in her body memory and draws her back to you. The real magic of communication is that it creates a cycle of desire. The more she feels heard, the more she opens up. The more she opens up, the more natural your connection becomes. It's not about constantly asking or talking, but about staying emotionally tuned in. When communication is present, both of you stop performing and start experiencing. You stop aiming for a goal and start exploring together. And that's when intimacy stops being an act. It becomes a shared language of energy, respect, and passion that keeps growing stronger every time. Presence is the invisible ingredient that separates mechanical intimacy from magnetic connection. A woman can instantly sense when a man is truly there with her, not just physically, but emotionally, energetically, and mentally. When you are fully present, your energy steadies, your focus sharpens, and your body language communicates confidence without ego. In that space, she feels seen, not objectified, desired, not used. Presence is about tuning into the moment so deeply that everything else fades away. The noise in your head, the worries, the expectations, until all that exists is her right there with you. That level of attention is what allows a woman to feel safe enough to let go, to open, and to trust the experience completely. Most men think great lovers are defined by experience or technique, but in truth, they are defined by awareness. A woman's body and mind are deeply sensitive to emotional energy. If your attention drifts, if your focus turns inward to performance or self doubt, she feels it. Her body responds not just to your touch, but to your state of mind. If you are distracted or disconnected, her nervous system subtly tightens, her breathing shifts, and her arousal slows down. But when you're grounded, when your breathing matches hers, when your touch carries intention instead of routine, her body mirrors your calm and confidence. Presence tells her without words that she can trust you to lead her into the moment. Being present also means letting go of the idea of performance. Intimacy is not a test, it's a shared experience. You don't need to prove your worth through control or intensity. In fact, overthinking is often what breaks connection. Women crave a partner who isn't lost in his own head, trying to meet imagined expectations. They want someone who feels with them, not someone trying to perform for them. When you strip away the pressure to be perfect, you allow genuine emotion and sensuality to emerge naturally. That authenticity draws her in far more powerfully than any technique could because she feels your intention instead of your efforts. Physiologically, presence enhances pleasure on both sides. When you're focused, your breathing slows and your body releases less cortisol, the stress hormone that interferes with arousal and stamina. This balanced state keeps you calm, aware, and in sync with her energy. Women respond to that energy. It's what makes a touch feel electric and a gaze feel magnetic. The deeper your presence, the more her body trusts the experience. And trust is what transforms physical contact into emotional and erotic connection. To be present is to listen with every sense: your hands, your breath, your silence. It's noticing the smallest shifts in her expression and responding without words. It's the art of giving without agenda and receiving without fear. When you learn to be still in her presence, she feels it as safety, intimacy, and desire all at once. That's what she remembers long after the moment ends. Not just what you did, but how deeply you were there. Because in a world full of distractions, the rarest gift you can give her is your undivided presence. And that is what turns a simple act into something unforgettable. What happens after intimacies is just as important as what happens during it. Most people think sex ends with climax, but for a woman, the emotional and physiological experience continues long after. Her body remains highly sensitive, her hormones are shifting, and her nervous system is open and receptive. This is where aftercare comes in, the part many overlook, but that defines whether she feels cherished or simply used. Aftercare isn't about grand gestures or forced affection. It's about presence, reassurance, and emotional connection. When a man takes time to hold her, speak softly, or simply stay close, her body interprets it as safety. That feeling of safety triggers oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, which reinforces her sense of attachment and trust. It tells her subconscious mind, I'm still safe, still wanted, still valued. And that's what transforms pleasure into emotional memory. A woman's body reacts strongly to emotional cues after intimacy. If she feels you withdraw too quickly, physically or emotionally, her system can interpret it as rejection. Even if that's not your intention, it can leave her feeling unfulfilled or uncertain. But when you stay, when you touch her hair, kiss her forehead, or simply breathe with her, her body relaxes into the experience rather than resisting it. This calm allows her to process the intensity of pleasure in a healthy, integrated way. It's the difference between leaving her satisfied or leaving her searching. Aftercare bridges the physical act with emotional depth, creating a connection that feels complete rather than fragmented. From a biological perspective, both men and women release oxytocin during intimacy, but women tend to produce it at higher levels, making them more emotionally attuned to what happens afterward. That's why the moments following sex often shape her emotional interpretation of the entire experience. If she feels seen and cared for, her body associates pleasure with connection, trust, and safety. If she feels ignored, her body links arousal with tension or abandonment. Over time, this can influence her ability to fully open up again, both emotionally and physically. For men who want to build lasting intimacy, understanding this cycle is essential. Pleasure doesn't end at release, it deepens through care. Aftercare doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as a quiet embrace, playful laughter, or words of reassurance. The key is sincerity, presence without pretense. When you honor her vulnerability after the act, she feels respected not just as a partner, but as a person. This emotional security strengthens her desire and trust, making future encounters more passionate, open, and connected. It's a form of communication that doesn't rely on words. Your actions tell her everything she needs to know. True intimacy is never about a single moment. It's about what lingers afterward. The warmth, the comfort, the emotional closeness that makes her think about you long after you've parted. When you give her that sense of safety and affection, you don't just satisfy her body, you satisfy her soul. That is what makes her crave you not out of lust, but out of love and connection. Because the greatest technique isn't how you start or how you move, it's how you make her feel when it's all over. What women truly crave isn't perfection, performance, or dominance. It's presence, patience, and genuine connection. The Fei One technique women beg for isn't a move, a rhythm, or a secret position. It's the experience of being with a man who understands her body and her emotions as one complete language. When you learn to touch her mind before her body, when you let rhythm and communication replace ego and haste, when you stay present instead of trying to impress, and when you hold her afterward with the same care you began with, that's when intimacy stops being physical and becomes something transcendent. True connection happens when two people feel safe enough to let their guards down and honest enough to listen, not just to words, but to breath, movement, and silence. It's not about control, it's about harmony. It's not about giving her pleasure just to prove your worth, but to celebrate her trust in you. The body may forget positions and touches, but it never forgets how it was treated. If she feels seen, respected, and cherished, her desire for you will grow deeper with every encounter. That is the essence of real intimacy. Not lust without meaning, but desire grounded in emotion, safety, and presence. So remember, the best technique isn't something you can memorize, it's something you create in the moment. The greatest skill you can ever master in intimacy is awareness. When you bring empathy, curiosity, and attention to every moment, you become the kind of man a woman never forgets. Not because of what you did, but because of how she felt when she was with you. Thank you for watching and taking the time to invest in not just your pleasure, but in understanding what real connection means. May you continue to grow, learn, and evolve, not just as a lover, but as a man who values depth, respect, and awareness. Good luck on your journey toward deeper, more meaningful intimacy. And remember, when you bring heart and intention into everything you do, you'll never have to chase connection again. It will naturally find you.